go. Hi, everyone. I'm Janvi. I'm the founder and CEO of a company called Cliqvault. It helps small and mid-sized companies really understand how to understand their workflow, how to improve their ROI, introduce different stakeholders that can help not only their business grow, but understand the best ways to improve the long-term longevity of their company. Today, we have a very special guest, Chad. Chad, welcome to the podcast. I'd love for you to introduce yourself.
Actually, yeah, I'm Stan Foltz. I'm the owner of ABT Financial Consultants. We're a boutique accounting firm, and we help small businesses with streamlined accounting services. So we can help them. That's our gig, and we're happy to be here.
Wonderful. Well, thanks for coming. So let's start from the beginning, right? Tell us a little bit about your professional journey. How did you get into tax and accounting, and what made you start your own firm?
Yeah, so my journey's been a long, interesting, kind of a winding journey, I guess. At least it seems to me. Some people kind of go straight from college straight into public accounting, but I did a couple of different things in the meantime. I actually got a degree in physics, works as an engineering building radar for military aircraft. It's kind of amazing working on different projects, huge teams, but I just felt like I wanted to move the needle more, and so I got involved with my dad, who had an accounting firm my whole entire life. He actually started it with my grandfather back in 1981 when I was a little kid, and I'm like, he was like, I got some work, and if you want to do it, if you want to come join me, I'd be more than happy to have you. And so I took a little plunge and started getting involved. Yeah, that's kind of how I got started. And then from there, a couple different things happened, and I'm not sure how far we want to go down the
Yeah.
road.
Did you actually have to get your CPA license to become a tax advisor?
Well, okay, so this is the interesting part. Is the CPA license is it's a pretty difficult thing to do. You have to have a bunch of college, you know, most basically now you have to have a master's degree essentially in accounting, and you have to take a pretty hard test, and you have to work with another professional for at least a year to get the license. However, it's only actually required for a couple of for some very specific things. And most really small businesses, like businesses that are doing, 100,000, 500,000, 800,000, in gross revenue a year, don't necessarily need all of the services that are required. However, it provides a significant level of security if you are working with a CPA, because at least at the very least, no one's perfect, but at the very least they've jumped through all those hoops to get the credential.
Mhm.
So what actually happened with me is my dad was a CPA, and so I worked with him and worked under his umbrella for many years, and eventually did get my CPA. So I went back and got a master's degree in accounting later on, back in 2014, and it took me a couple of years to get that finished, and then after that to get through the CPA licensure process. But what was interesting is most of the people I talked to were like, well, we don't really care. You know how to treat us. You have the expertise of your dad, and so between one thing and another, I was able to essentially start the business and scale the business while I was finalizing my education.
Right.
Yeah,
So talk a little bit about the vision of the business and how you built it out, and what was the vision behind building it out?
yeah, so there was, like, I guess there's probably two pieces to the vision. One was maybe a little selfish, and the other one was just a little more just normal business stuff. So my wife is Spanish, and we've been living in Spain off and on since we met and back in 2000. And so I had this idea back in 2004 that I could do the business from anywhere, because we got our faxes straight into our computer, and we could, like, do all this really old technology stuff that I don't even know how it works anymore. And so I realized that a bunch of the stuff, it really didn't need to be done present with the customer, and as long as it was done, everybody was happy. So it didn't really matter where you were. And so that was part of it, that I realized I could build this platform, and I could see that the future was going that direction. And then, lo and behold, here we are, whatever it is, 20 years later, and it's not just accountants, but lots of people are doing that. And then the other part was just really to serve small businesses. It is a battle to have the guts and the willpower and the staying ability to start a business and have the vision to start a business and to grow a business and go through all the ups and downs of the roller coaster of all that entails. And so I just felt like the accounting piece is so having good accounting gives you good information and helps you weather that storm better. And at the same time, if you can save money on taxes and provide to actually say and get insight on the operations of the business to reduce overhead and increase margins, then things just go better, period. So that was our big thing. We really just leaned into helping small businesses as much as we can. And
did you have a market of people that you were trying to focus on?
Yeah, it's kind of evolved over time, but it really what we're working with now, or we like working with software companies, software development companies, and digital media agencies. We found that they were really because we're remote and we have a lot of so everything has to be digital online. That they were very adaptable to that, and most of the companies are also virtual, and so we are for many companies their virtual accounting department. And so we just kind of plug into the backside, and no one really needs to know if we're full-time employees or if we're part-time, contractors or what's going on. We're just doing the accounting behind the scenes for them. So yeah, that was our the initial market was just small businesses in the Phoenix area where the business was located, and then we started niching and branching out, and through referrals and word of mouth, we're able to build into that niche pretty well.
So then how does this work if you're, is most of your clients in the US or are they global?
Yeah, so all of our clients are we focus on accounting and taxes in the U.S. system. So if someone were to be living outside of the U.S. but have a company that they're running in U.S. for U.S. customers, then that's something we would be more than happy to help with. But yeah, most of our companies are actually just U.S. based companies with U.S. based customers and U.S. operations.
Okay, because I was just thinking, having been in the financial services space my whole career, regulation matters, and which region you're in, US, EMEA, APAC, drastically changes how any sort of regulations and mandates work, right? Mandate in the US is please, a mandate in EMEA in APAC is do it in the next 20 minutes. So that's why I was curious of, where mandates come in, because being in the tax space, right, is very, very much of a regulated space. So, talking about that, tell me about the growth of your firm today and how have you built it out, and how people, is it referrals? Is it word of mouth? Is it people who just want someone that's a lot more nimble than their normal CPA that's out of office and you just walk in? Like, what is it that differentiates you?
Yeah, so there's a couple of things. The way I guess some of the big differentiators is that we do have that I guess it's just more of a hands-on feel. Like we like talking to our customers. I remember this is actually kind of an interesting thing. I only learned lots of accountants and CPAs have gone out and worked in like the big four, the big eight, or whatever it used to be, and so they get this other experience. I did not have that experience. I only worked with my dad, and he taught me everything that I knew up to a certain point. And so I remember, like, after doing it for 3 or 4 or 5 years, talking to some other people, they're like, "Oh yeah, I just dropped my tax return off my stuff off my CPA, then I pick up my tax return a couple of weeks later. Like we don't talk about anything." And I'm like, "Wait, hold on. What we do is like everybody who comes in the door, we sit down, we talk to them for an hour, we try to understand what's really going on with them, and then through that, we try to build like a holistic plan of like what the opportunities are to help them, best manage the situation."
All
Like that,
right. And I
you know,
think you brought up an example in the beginning of just like areas they may be able to potentially avoid paying taxes through other channels. And I think if you're not going to have these conversations about your money with the right person, where else are you kind of lacking in your communication, right? Which I think it's so wonderful. I can say pretty confidently there's many people that just put it into a tool and get a number and say, okay, this is my tax returns. But having someone come to you, so, coming to that, what does your ideal client look like? And what type of questions do you get from many of your clients?
yeah. So our ideal client is someone with a small business who has, some like we like people who are interested in growing and growth and are looking to scale either organically or aggressively. and we really thrive in the world with entrepreneurs who today they open a business. Like I was on a call yesterday with a client who I think he's been our client for about 10 years, and he's on, I think this is he told me he was about to start a fourth business, right? And so it's like, he had an idea, and then that one kind of fizzled out. He had another idea, and that was working really good. And he had a third idea, and that's working really good. And now he's like, oh, I got this other idea. And I'm like, all right, great. Like, we're more than happy to help. And the idea, so that level of complexity, once you start getting, people who like having, building successful operations, we can deal with some of the complexity that happens when there's multiple things going on at the same time. So that's the other piece
And
that
then
we.
if you're in the life cycle of the one company, right, as you said, he built out like 4 to 6 companies, I'm sure you're part of the integration, right? So as they grow, you're also like, hey, what about that other company? Do you want to liquidify that one, or why are we keeping that one? I'm sure you guys, because of
Exactly.
your life cycle with them, right? Like a full practitioner, you are able to understand when they were first born as a company to, or have they outgrown this company and should they close it out?
Yeah, and then are there opportunities of keeping both, for either tax planning or, retirement contributions or, structures or, shifting income between different taxing regimes. There's lots of different opportunities given the facts and circumstances, the assets, tangible and intangible that are involved. So yeah, definitely we definitely like thinking of the holistic approach. Yeah, so
So what makes your model different than the traditional CPA firms? I know you're remote. That's ideal because then I don't have to only have a CPA in the city and the state that I live in, right? He or she can be anywhere in the world and so can I. But what really differentiates your firm from everyone else?
yeah, so the other piece, I guess the other one, aside from liking to communicate with our clients, having regular meetings with them, the other piece that we enjoy also is just being able to adapt to the level that they're at. So we have some clients that we do the bookkeeping, and we just send them the financials at the end of the month. It's very affordable for them, and it kind of happens behind the scenes. And there's other groups of clients where we meet with them, we're interacting with them every single day. We are running, so there's a large amount of flexibility for us to help to interact with the client as they grow from because what we found is once companies start hitting $1 million in gross revenue, there really becomes a series of complications that the business has to change or else it won't grow. And so the owner has to let go of the reins and set up systems and processes, and inevitably they get farther away from the actual juice and the actual what's actually happening in the company. So when that happens, they need more to lean more on the systems they have, and the financials will help them see that. So that's the thing that kind of helps us, that sets us apart, as we've gone through that process of helping people grow from 1 to 5 million or 2 to 10 million multiple times, and we can help them build those systems and reporting processes that help them manage it better. And we can also do some of the back office stuff at the same time too. So
But my thought on that coming from a large financial institution is the assumption is everything that you're talking about is documented by the company
mhm.
as well as they have all their paperwork in play for you to help them scale, right? So that probably is clean up in aisle one first, right? And then you're like, okay, I will help you scale. And then are you okay not being the one who's going to make all the decisions now? We are going to guide you. You will make it, but we are going to guide you. Do you end up having a lot of CEOs, founders, especially first time as they're upskilling, that they don't want to let go of the reins because they're scared you may, veer left from their vision and,
I mean,
end up doing something different than they want?
for sure that the I guess so. First, yeah, the typical most of the time we bring clients on is the founder was the one doing the books, or the founder's cousin or his mom or whatever, right? And so it's a hot mess usually because it's a do-it-yourself kind of thing. And so yeah, first is set up processes, set up checks and balances, separation of duties to make sure that if there are people who aren't the founder involved, that nothing that we limit as much as possible any nefarious activity that might happen, because in the end, the funds are the funds, cash is king. And then separately, yeah, the whole process of communicating with them, like you have with the people we do back office bookkeeping and controllership level or CFO level services, we meet with them every single week or talk to them multiple times a week, because the communication is paramount. Like you can't, like, if we're not on the same page about if we're going to go left or right, like, the whole thing, the ship is going to crash. So that's
Or
the
you're
fun.
not going to be able to give them the vision they're looking for, and then they're going to just be, bitter about it.
Hmm. Yeah, I agree. The piece, I guess, what the other thing that I feel like has worked well with us is we approach it with things with almost like a teacher mentality. Like, we are not here to dictate to you how things are going to be. We're here to walk with you, beside you, guide you, share knowledge, provide a path that we understand that will help you be more successful. And it's a conversation, not necessarily a mandate.
Yeah. So when you're thinking about things like that, what is the vision that you kind of help the client go through when they're deciding we want to expand, we want to scale? What are the first, 1 to 5 questions you ask them as the founder, and making sure you can help them get there?
Yeah, usually we start with just their vision, like, where do you want to be in 5 years? Just tell me that in 3 sentences. What does that mean? What does that look like? What is that? What is that? And then the next piece is, usually I like to ask a question somewhere along the lines of, do you want what that means? Because great, if you say you want to, 100x your company in the next 3 years, okay, well, there's a lot of complexity with that, involved to make that happen. And it's going to mean a lot,
Sleepless nights.
yeah, sleepless nights. And if you're going to do that, do you have a trust fund? Or are you going to go out and ask for money? If you ask for money, then that's a whole other ball of wax. You have a bunch of people you have to manage. You know. Anyway, so just kind of we usually kind of start there with their big motivations, and kind of maybe not asking directly why the hell are you doing this, but kind of getting the general feel of what the motivations are, and what their philosophy is too, because it's also like, there's people, it's also kind of a two-way street. Like, as much as I'm interviewing them, they're interviewing me, and understanding if there's a working relationship so that we can collaborate. So usually we start with that high level understanding, and then we move down to the next, tactical level. Like, where do you feel like you need our help, and where can we provide the most value? And if that's just quarterly or annual tax planning to start off with, because they have the basics covered in a different way, well, then we can start there. And then it's like, well, we can also talk about this again 6 months or a year from now as things evolve and change, because maybe you're going to be a different place and you need a different set of a different different level of service, a different you have more complications that have happened that you didn't have when we first chatted.
So is there any specific tools that you make sure the clients know how to embed into their platform?
I mean, we I guess, like, the most fundamental thing obviously is a good accounting system. Like, just the backbone, and QuickBooks Online, Zero are two of our favorite ones. We've started using Digits recently as well, which is an AI, a fundamentally AI based general ledger platform. So that's the fundamental. But then depending on how do I want to say this, the stack and the complexity and how things are set up, then we have a series of tools that we like to use. So we like to use Ramp for spend control and paying bills. We like to use Gusto, or we like to use JustWorks, if they want to do a PEO. There's a few different tools that we like to use to set up there. And then on the back side, we built our own internal reporting dashboard, just to kind of streamline how things work and do and repeat it. So it's a thing we built internally.
Do you require them to have all this so that you can do the implementation easier for you to start gathering this information? Or I'm just thinking about it from, like, when you're talking to, companies like, any of our stocks and trading companies that we all work with, right? And they say, here's our portal, add everything to that. We'll then reconcile it back to our portal. Is that what you guys do too? Or you're just like, just send me the raw form of the tax returns and our previous ones and tax forms, and we'll add it to our platform?
Right. So, I mean, for security purposes, we definitely use secure platforms or secure portals to exchange information. That's fundamental. But from the standpoint of requiring them to use our preferred stack, we usually do not, because sometimes we get involved when customers are pretty far along and they're embedded operational processes with their customers that are, embedded into the accounting software and how things are done. And so it's kind of, is the juice worth the squeeze? Is the evaluation we need to do. If the accounting system is working well and it's well embedded with, if it's set up well and it's working
Yeah.
well,
Why,
then
why,
what,
why fix
things
it?
break, don't fix it. Exactly, right? And
Yeah.
then and if they're using, one of the platforms we already use that I mentioned before, for their accounting, then we have tools that we can get the data out of that into reporting on it, right?
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
if they have nothing, or they have a spreadsheet or whatever it is, or if what they've set up is just broken, then we'll implement our preferred platform.
So just wanted to just go into one question around the tax space. You
Mhm.
mentioned tax workflows are still evolving, right? Why is tax harder to scale than bookkeeping?
Well, tax requires. I mean, actually, yesterday the IRS released their artificial intelligence guidelines around tax prep work. So, not the fact that the IRS, which moves a little bit like like an elephant, nice and
Sloth.
slow,
Yeah.
yeah, sloth, has recognized that it's actually happening, is actually a step in the right direction towards innovation and the changing nature of the scene. But it's difficult. But the brutal reality is that tax work is complicated, and the tax code is not straightforward, and there's a lot of nuance to even like when I was working with a client currently who a partnership it's a partnership, three guys, and the one guy, two of them want to leave, one guy's going to keep the company. So okay, great, pretty normal thing. I'm going to buy you out. You guys can leave. Have a good day. But it's like, okay, well, do you need a new EIN? It seems like a pretty standard question. You pull up the IRS, PDF on it, and it's like reading Chinese or something. Like, it's like, well, what this if not that, and there's this other thing, it's not this thing, and it's like, okay, well, but our particular case, where is it? Which one of these things is? And
Yeah.
I do this for a living, right? So, and when the real answer is actually in the tax code, which is, completely significantly more difficult. So the point is, the hard part of taxes is you have to be really good at it. You have to be able to sift through a lot of information. And then on the other side, in order to be really effective with people, you have to be able to communicate with normal people, right? And so they're almost like opposing skills. Like, to be really good at it, you have to be you might call it like a bookworm or something like that. But to be effective with the clients and customers, you have to be able to communicate and articulate complex ideas in concise ways that people who aren't experts can understand. So that's why it becomes difficult to get those two skills into one person.
So, okay, so that brings me into my next question. So, where does AI come into this? And do you use AI to help you, remove all the gaps and inconsistency and like, the cloudiness of whatever the IRS's website said to what it means to me, to what it means to do I have to get an EIN number again or not?
So I guess the way I look at AI right now is it is a very helpful tool that accelerates learning and the location of the right answer. Like if you had to worry about what the Florida, excuse me, like a very specific state regulation is, that was very difficult to find 10 years ago. Almost, you'd have to like order it from the state to have them send it to you. In the last 5 or 10 years, almost all that's online. But then you have to find the right website, and you have to, dig through
Prompt
dozens of
engineering.
pages of whatever it is, right? And now it's like you can like with AI, you can get to the actual section of the code that's interesting to you. So it can in a matter of seconds or minutes, versus before it might take hours or days to find what's actually useful and important. So that has been a significant. The large language models have been a significant accelerator in that process and getting to the right answer faster. The new things with respect to the agents, so I guess there's like two parts, right? The large language models still hallucinate a lot. You got to call them out. I had one client who was trying to figure out how to deal with his 401k distribution, and I think the guy was traveling between Canada, the U.S., and Spain, and I think in every country he got a different answer for the
Because the
exact same.
LLM thought the IP address was somewhere else? Like how?
Yeah, or just it just came to a different conclusion on a different day because he asked the question slightly differently. He's Canadian. He worked in, which rules were the ones that the LLM should apply, and he kept saying, well, I don't know what the right answer is. I'm like, all right, well, we'll figure it out for you. But,
Yeah.
like obviously AI isn't up to that speed and if you don't ask the right questions, you won't get the right answers. So on that side, the other thing that it is good at is that I believe that agents are going to be very good at taking concise, well-structured data and transforming it from one platform to another platform. Like they will be better than humans at that. Period.
I think you're absolutely right. I think it'll help if I'm trying to put something from Claude to some other website, right? You can literally take that code, put it into that website. It'll create the exact details you want on that website, and it'll do it in the file, in JSON file or whatever it may be, based on exactly what the file needs. And I think right now, great point, Chad, is like you need a person, an engineer, or someone who knows, or some sort of coder who knows how to differentiate. Right now, you don't need that anymore. You have your buddy Claude, or any other tool you use that you can just say, I'm moving it from this environment to this. Please put it in this file format. But
Exactly.
my question to all this at the end of the day, coming in from a financial services risk uh, hat, and you being in tax also. So you ask Claude or you ask these AI tools, right? And then I come to you as my tax advisor and say, well, this is what this tool says. Will you ever just say, can you ask these tools to give me the bibliography of where you got this from? So it's not hallucinating and it didn't make up its own version of whatever, Joe Schmo asked it.
Well, I mean that's the thing. It's like I've got even like and then this actually I always think about this with my kids because they're like, well, AI says this. I'm like, well, but how do you got to question it? How do you know that it's right? You got to get to the root cause because like maybe it's referencing some, it's hallucinating on a piece of bad information,
Right.
right? So
Or it's giving you an option based on something that it doesn't even know you want, right? So it's not just hallucinating, it's also visioning you into somewhere you can't imagine. And I think my whole thing with AI is I love it, but at the end of the day, especially to the point about your kids, I would always say test out answers that you already know and then ask it. So the color of a strawberry ice cream is pink. Like that. Like you can see it, you've seen it, you know what it's like. But if you say it's blue, you're like, where is it blue in what country? Let's talk about that before you
under what
ask it a
circumstances
smart question.
is it still edible if it's blue? So I guess the other piece that I see is that we've seen this a lot too, is we've been testing out asking it to analyze financial data. Like we've done this with a number of clients where we've taken their data, scrubbed it with personal information, like a set of financials, and put it into a large language model to ask it for analysis and conclusions. And if there's just a huge lack of context, right? Because it's like, okay, oh well, this business is growing. They want to scale and they want to bring on venture capital. And they want to do this, that, and that. And they're going public. And I'm like, no, this is a doctor's office who's really successful. He just wants to retire in 10 years. Like he doesn't want,
Right,
like he doesn't want to do any of that stuff. Like bad,
right.
wrong assumptions, right? So part of that's on us to continue to coach the models and build better feedback loops. But I do believe there's a world where there's a lot of value that can be provided just out of the box once you kind of vet these some of these more advanced agents that are going to be providing more advanced information. But at the same time, I still think one of the biggest services we provide is we provide a sounding board and a different lens for business owners to understand what they're going through.
Mhm.
Right? It's like, okay, I want to scale. Should I open another location, or should I, do this other thing? And it's like, well, there's a lot of there's a lot of different options and there's a lot of different things to think about. And while the AI can help you think through those things, there's also like, there's two or three different ways to look at it, right?
Right.
So
And it's only giving you ideas based on what it knows. And, something I heard just recently is AI is that one AI model is only looking at what you've given it in the life of its model, right? Like it doesn't really know anything before time. But at the same time, you have worked with so many different clients over the years that one little topic or one nugget I give you, most likely you're going to know exactly this is something another client didn't succeed in. Let me give you this suggestion instead.
yeah, and
So,
that's kind of the
I,
value.
yeah, so I think that's very important. Now, before we go into the rapid fire in a minute, couple of quick questions for you. What concerns do you have around privacy and client data, especially around, the tax space? And what concerns do you have on, any of these software vendors that you're working with to make sure your conversation, your integrations with them are seamless?
Yeah, so we vet all of our vendors to understand that they're SOC 2 Type 2 compliant and that they take security seriously. You know Basically almost all of our vendors that have, and we also do make a considerable effort to limit the platform, the what do you call it, the area, how many different places the data actually is residing. So, we have our main place where we save client data, and then we only put sensitive data into programs that are specifically for tax. So it is in the end, it's on a computer. That computer could eventually be hacked, just like if it was in our office back
Anything
in the day,
else?
it was
Yeah.
on paper. Someone could come in the door, break in the door, and get the information. So not that there's nothing is ever 100% secure, but going through all the processes and the latest methodologies of keeping things secure is the least you can do. So we've set up two-factor authentication. We're working on passkeys. We have all our computers encrypted. So it's a concern, but
Yeah.
we like to take it seriously.
But I think you make a great point. I think as a consumer, but also someone who's in the tech, finance, cybersecurity space, I expect that of you, right? And I expect that of the vendors where I'm sharing my information with, because that's where most of my information is being sent. So let's get started in our rapid fire round.
All right.
So I'm going to ask you 10 questions. I'm going to go one right after another. I would request if you can do it within 1 to 3 words. If you need more words, go for it. But I think what makes the most of this is really just saying what your gut wants and feels in that second. So
Oh
you
boy.
ready?
Okay.
All right. Favorite AI tool right now?
Claude.
One accounting task you'd automate tomorrow.
Bank reconciliation.
Biggest lesson from entrepreneurship.
It's a marathon, not a sprint.
Best business book you've ever read.
Probably either traction or good to great.
Biggest scaling mistake you've made.
Probably over hiring, like having too much capacity. It's like you had to sell into it.
One metric every business owner should watch.
Your burn, cash burn. Just always keep your eye on the cash.
Advice you'd give your younger self.
Be bold. Go for it.
What accounting task will disappear because of AI?
Hmm. Specific tasks that will disappear. I think there's I guess data entry is the thing. There's certain pieces of data entry that will just go away. Not completely, but significantly.
How should younger accountants prepare?
I believe that in order to be effective Now you need to be both curious about the trade itself and curious about the technology. You have to be curious about both. You can't be just curious about one.
Yeah. No, these are amazing answers. And I think for the audience, it's very important to understand the time it took for you to get to this point and where you're going. So rapid fire is done, but one question I have for you. What's next for Chad and the firm?
Yeah, we are growing. We're looking to bring on new clients, and the I guess we're active on LinkedIn. We don't really have any big events planned right now, but we're trying to work on some webinars maybe in the fourth quarter to kind of get ready for the next tax year.
Well, this has been absolutely amazing. I will share your information with the audience through the podcast, but if there's any final words that you have for the audience on why tax is so interesting, especially with the world we're in from an advisory perspective, what would you say?
I just love that it's like an onion. Like you just keep peeling back the layers. There's it's so complex and there's so many opportunities to and different ways to do it. So
I
I
love
just
it. I love it. And I think I love that it's you're evolving with the times. I think that's why you're succeeding so well. Well, Chad, thank you so much. It was absolute pleasure, and we will be in touch soon.
all right. Good to see
Thank
you.
you.
Thanks, Janvi.
Thank you.